All right. So, after a little bit of a technical hiccup, I noticed that it's hard for me to figure out where to find these on LinkedIn. I will navigate through all that. Like I told you all in the beginning, this is all kind of new. We're going into Do University. Um, and so we'll be navigating through some kinks as we go along. But I'm glad that you made it, or I'm glad that you're watching this later on. So, let me try to do one thing really quick where I copy this link and then I'll drop it in LinkedIn really quick for those of you looking. Boom. All right. So today, I got a couple of things that I want to help you all navigate through and really just I want to share. So let me pull up this deck, see if this works. Now, it's the age of AI. So I am trying to leverage technology as best as possible to put together some of these decks. And we'll see. We'll see how this works. Y'all let me know. Share this. I'm going to present. All right. And bingo, bango. I had an old boss that used to say that. Don't ask me what it means. Okay. Uh-oh. There it is. Cool. All right. So today I'm going to be talking about something I think many people already know, and a lot of organizations know this. We know it intrinsically. I don't know if we actually call it out outright. So when I say it, hopefully it makes some sense, and hopefully it resonates with some of you. And it's why your best performers tend to fail. And it's not that they fail in the role of performing; it's that they fail in the role of promotion. So what tends to happen, especially with first-time managers or the folks that we have navigated. And there's actually a principle called the Peter Principle. So I had never heard of it before. So I'll give you something to Google and something to have fun with. But again, that's the Peter Principle. So sometimes our people that we think we want to promote, the folks that we are hoping are going to be like our greatest new leaders, sometimes they don't pan out. And we tend to promote people or employees based upon success in their current role until they reach a level of incompetence. And that's kind of how it works. We keep promoting them until we realize that, oh, you're not as good as we thought you were. And it's not always their fault. I think I want to call that out more than anything. Like sometimes it's our fault for not preparing them. And if you see me looking down, there's some comments coming in from some text messages from some folks. And then there's also some notes I have scribbled down. So you'll see me do that from time to time. So when they fail, we can't allow them to be the only people held accountable. Most organizations do not invest in leadership development. As many of you know, you're in the L&D space, you're in the learning and development space, you're in the training and development space, you are in leadership development spaces, you know that. Most organizations do invest in leadership development, but they don't get it to their early adopting leaders. So while people are spending lots of money, we're not implementing to the people that need it at the right time. And that is a major problem. So I don't want to make it seem like organizations don't spend money on this. We're kind of spending money, but we're not getting the most out of our investment. A couple of things I want to talk about. There's just a few people I even have in mind who you're promoted on like a Friday, and you're the best closer at a company. Maybe you're the top engineer. Um, maybe you're the most reliable operator. Maybe you're the most whatever. Insert word here. And you have these people within your teams and within your organizations, and we know who they are. Some of you were these people. But come day 45, they're still doing the same work that they were doing before. They have not adjusted to the new requirements of the role. So while they're still doing the same work, the team is still waiting. The bottleneck now has a new title. So before it was we don't have anyone in this position. Now it's, oh, the bottleneck has become this new leader. So the thing that made you great up to here is the thing that's now going to start holding that individual back. And we know this because we see it so often. And I want to just be honest, most of the time you're not promoting a manager, especially if they're going from an individual contributor role. Even if they have influence in the role, you are not promoting a manager. You're promoting an individual contributor. So you've promoted your best IC and handed them a manager's title, a director's title, a supervisor title. Those are not the same things. I just want to be clear on that. And what you're expecting is not the same person. You're expecting this person to go through a transformation because you've seen glimpses of potential inside of them. And that's important. That matters. However, it's not the end all be all. So, what do we do? Um, eh, well, one, I'm not going to say you just throw more training at them because that sending them to a LinkedIn Learning. I know I'm on LinkedIn doing this. I'm not against LinkedIn Learners. I think they have their place. Throwing that at a person who has the only thing that's going to help them is probably not the best idea. Why? Because they're in two opposite spectrums right now of what you want versus what they are. And it's not, again, a fault of theirs. It's not even a fault of the organization, really. It's sometimes we're so in the work, we don't realize what we're doing. So, the person that we have, the individual contributor, the person that was doing the work, that's the person that gets in the trenches. You hear these terms often, especially in public sector. I want to be a person that gets in the trenches. I'm in there with my people. I'm doing it. I'm in the grind with them, and that's great. And in real strategy and where that comes from is normally a militaristic term. And to be honest with you, not all of the folks who are making strategy decisions are in the trenches with people. I'm just saying. So even the usage of the term, we're not even quite pulling it in right, in my opinion. Um, and again, this individual as an individual contributor, they do the work themselves. They're better than a lot of other folks. They're faster, they're more efficient, they're quick, they're thinking on their feet. They're able to be like, oh, I have one, two, and three that's coming up. Let me plan for that because I know the work. I'm in the grind. And that is fantastic. And we do want to reward that. Promoting, though, changes the scorecard that we're now grading this individual on. So before, we love those attributes of like some FIO, some figure it out. Like, a lot of folks nowadays need to go back in my brain and how I personally feel and go play with some Legos if they are able, some connects, some things that make them have to put things together and figure some stuff out, and then be like, why do I have these extra pieces? Because sometimes Lego would include extra pieces. That's like a '90s kid thing. Um, I won't go there, but sometimes we need that on our teams, and we love it because it takes the pressure off of you as a leader, off of you as an organization. When you have people in the org that own the problem and want to solve it, and that is beautiful. And then we take these people that we really love at solving these problems, and then we turn them into managers, and they're not even ready for it because we're not scaffolding it enough. Because the new rubric that you're going to start grading them against is how well are they at creating results through other people. So before it was how good am I at creating results through myself? How good am I in my job, my role, the specific thing that makes me fantastic? And now I'm trying to say, well, I want you to take all that goodness that you had and I want you to start transferring that into other people. That's a very different skill. And some of you may say, oh, I don't really want that. I just want, then why do we promote them? Why do we give them a leadership role if that's not really what we wanted them to do to some degree? If we don't want some of who they are and what they are to transfer to other people, why are they in the lead? Because a leader is someone that others are going to follow. So if you don't want this person to be followed, that's a whole different conversation of why you promoted them. We're not going to touch that today. we'll have plenty of time together. All right. So again, I'm just trying to give you the mindset and the ideas that show up in the individual that we're about to promote, and then what we were asking them to do later on. And it's kind of an unfair gap. It's a very unfair gap if we're not willing as an organization to help them close it. So I'm really inside of that, right? I want to highlight that this is an identity transformation. New managers are often going to cling to the technical work because it is where competence still feels familiar. Competence still feels familiar. My expertise is still familiar. There's a level of comfort that comes from me being the person who did the job, just did the work. I just came in and I did the thing. And now you're asking someone to change their entire mindset, to become someone new, to help this organization, this team, this whatever. I want you to like grasp that. So the next time you're thinking about, oh yeah, we're going to promote so and so because they're really good, the team really likes them, they're really good at the job, one, two, and three. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's fantastic. It's beautiful. They're great at all that. And now they're going to have to change their identity to become something different. And some of you are like, no, they don't. We just want them as they are. They're already doing it. What's going to change? Well, first off, the dynamics. I'm a sociologist by degree. I also did marketing in college. I then went back for my master's in innovation and globalization. I've been working with organizations for over 15 years in leadership and consulting and coaching and people development and human development. And what I've seen, what the research has shown me, if you want to go personal research, if you want to go just look this up for yourself, change happening to people is very, very different than change happening from people. So I want you to grasp that concept because when you promote someone, you are causing a change to happen to everyone else as well. So just because they were good at the role before, people are going to change their perception of how they look at them. It is natural. It happens. I want you to be aware of this. And that leader needs to be aware and they need to be prepared for the change that's going to come, not just for themselves, but how others are going to start perceiving them. And that takes a new mindset and a new level of identity. So, identity transformation is crucial. And what really kind of helps you to help them get to that change is that you take them from being an executor of like, how do I solve this? To how do I build the people and the team and the environment around me to solve this? And I want to be very clear. You're not telling an individual that, oh, you can't touch the job anymore. You can't do this. Don't touch it. They're the expert to some degree. Or they have some level of expertise. They have some level of skill. That's why you promoted them, right? The thing that you don't want them to do forever, though, is the thing that you promoted them from. So there's a transition period that you want to have happen where they are learning how to develop others. How do I build the person who solves this? How do I build the relationships with the team? Um, I wonder if my iPad will work for this. This is something I learned so long ago, and hopefully I can pull this up because I think it's really good to show you all. I wasn't really expecting to go this route. I had some other things I wanted to show, but I think it's important enough. All right, let me get my iPad set up. I think it's important enough that you all um, get to see it. So let's see. I open this and I do this. Okay, cool. Well, this might work. All right, and I may even give you some more than what I was expecting to give today. So hopefully that'll be all right. Hopefully y'all won't be upset about getting more instead of getting less. All right. Okay, I'm gonna share this. And hopefully you all can see this. It's funny because I'll find out during the edit phase of what you all can and can't see. Um, Relationships. And some of you all are like, what does this have to do with anything? And it has everything to do with everything. No, I don't want you to see that. I wish I could. Okay. We'll navigate. I know y'all can see all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to make sure I don't get nothing crazy on my notes. So initiate. All right. I know this is gonna look funky, but go with me. All right. So what you see on your screen right now, got to make this like real exaggerated for you all. All right. So this is a relationship cycle. And the reason why I'm showing you all this is because it's important to how folks get together, how they get down, what happens. So you have to remember that every relationship starts with initiate. So you have to start off knowing someone, getting to know someone, whatever the case might be. And this is not just true for romance, family, work, platonic. All right. So every relationship has an initiation, it has a starting point. And after you've initiated, there are some parameters, some rules. If you don't believe me, I would, I'll give you this. So, family, there are certain things that you can do in a family relationship in the parameters of a mother, son, mother, daughter, father, son, brother, sister, cousin, auntie, whatever. There are certain things that you can do in the parameters of that relationship that you better not do if you are not inside of that relationship. For example, this is one that people tend to relate with a lot. There's like brothers and family members or whatever. I grew up around a lot of folks. So you might talk about one another. My cousins and I used to, we call it roasting and capping. That's the term we used back then. You might do that with them. We might talk about one another, but that's okay in the parameters of our relationship. You can't come in from the outside into our relationship and start saying something about my cousin and expect me not to have something to say back to you. We might have been arguing, we might have been going through whatever, but when you showed up, you don't share the same parameters or rules that we share. So you're not allowed to do that thing. That's no different than inside of a work relationship. And I bring this up because I really want you to understand that in a working relationship, when I was onboarded, I've been given a set of parameters. I'm the new person typically. And I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm developing, I'm getting to know the team, I'm sharing things, but there are parameters. There are things that I can do in a work relationship that I can't do in a family relationship, that I can't do in a romantic relationship. HR, hello. There's a whole bunch of things. As we tend to move on, though, I want you to just highlight that work relationship. It's one thing when we're peers in a working relationship. The work relationship I have with my manager is very different than the work relationship I have with those around me. The work relationship I have with my skip level is very different than the working relationship sometimes I have with my manager. The parameters are very different. There's some similarities, some things I can do and can't do in both. However, when I've initiated a relationship, there are parameters. There's It's almost like this field of things that are acceptable and not acceptable. When we promote people from a peer to a manager, I want you to realize that the relationship has changed, not only for them, but for everyone around them because the expectations and what's allowed have also changed. And so, if we're trying to get a person to go from being an executor of doing the work, doing the work, doing the work to developing their previous peers, that's a whole different dynamic. And if people don't realize that this initiate phase happens again, like it's a little sluggish right now, but if they don't realize that this initiate phase is taking place, they're going to run into some issues because it's a new relationship. And so now that it's a new relationship, they have to build. You have to build trust in a different way. Like you have to trust now that, hey, I'm not just like, oh, I got power today and I'm telling you what to do. It's, I still am the same person as before, except for now my responsibility is different. So how I communicate that to you is going to be a little bit different because my expectations are a little different. And now I have to build a new level of trust with you. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you be like, well, I'm the boss. So I just tell people what to do. Like, good luck. There are some people within your organization right now who have more influence than other people who have higher titles and higher authority. And I want you to remember that people with influence can get you to turn and do, and they can do that along with the team as well as other leaders. I never forget, I worked at Kaiser Permanente for many years. Dr. John Loftus at the time was the PIC, the physician in chief. To me, he was great. I mean, I had a really good working relationship with him. I remember he gave me a tea kettle for my wedding, like, which is kind of tight. We still use it. I say all that because one of the people that had the most influence was not always Dr. Loftus. Dr. Loftus had an executive assistant. And in order for me to get stuff done, I needed sometimes to work through her. She had not the same level of authority, but she had a lot of influence. So don't let it be fooled that, oh, okay, I promoted this person. Now they have the authority to do something. If they don't build the trust to have the influence to do it, it will not go as smooth. It won't go as far. It won't go as quick. Influence is powerful. So, all right. I just wanted to show you this part because we're talking about like when they're changing over from ex, bleh, executor to developer, when they're changing mindsets, they also have to realize that other people around them, the relationship dynamics have also changed. And it is an initiate. I have a new initiation. There are new parameters. I now have to build. Once I've built some trust, then I can start maintaining. Sometimes you'll hear about storming, forming, norming, performing. Very similar. I'm just talking about it through a relationship lens, but it's very similar in concept because there are going to come moments where I have that little red and white looking thing. And that's when the stuff kind of just goes blah and you have conflict. And it's at those moments where sometimes either the relationship goes back and you have to change the parameters. Sometimes initiate the relationship, then you have to start over. Or or if you're fortunate enough, if you're skilled enough, you can build from that conflict and you never have to lose momentum. But it can help the relationship become even stronger. And again, I'm going to stop sharing this. These are some of the things that like, you don't hear about that inside of your normal training program for management. That's not it. So I'll keep going. And like I said, next time I'll probably start have some slides. These are kind of like moments where I want to just kind of get on and just share information with you all. So you might have to listen quick and not listen slow. And you may have to go back over it. And it's free. So, just saying. Um, there are a couple things that a lot of managers, especially new transitioning managers, do. And I just kind of want to give you three things that will kind of help get you into a new mindset that you can even use on yourself or inside of your organization on your teams. The first one is getting out of the mindset of rescuing everybody or fixing everything. As a high performer, I was one of these. Like if you go back, I think I saved most of my performance evaluations from Kaiser. So if any of you are like, were you really? I got receipts. Like I was a hypo every single year, like it, without fail. I was excellent every single time because anyway, the whole thing. So I'm a recovering hypo. Um, but sometimes, especially when you're a new leader, you have to resist the urge to provide value by taking the work back from people, by saving people. You're like, oh, they're struggling, so let me just do it. Oh, this is going on. Oh, I got it. Because before, that's how you got the promotion was by showing like, oh, I can do it. I think even at a firm when I was working there, they talk about we don't need heroes. Like we don't want heroic acts to be the thing that drives us. And I think that that was a really good principle that they had. Don't be a hero for everything. Be a team player. Be a support. That's one thing. Pause the rescue. Take a step back. Stop trying to take everything back from people, doing everyone else's work. You're not empowering them, you're hindering them. The second one is start coaching how people think. And that's going to start by coaching how you think as a leader. And so if you're watching this, if you're inside of an HR position, if you're a training director managing teams and onboarding on-site or off-site trainings, or if you're bringing in other folks to do this, like I want you to start looking for these things inside the programs that you bring in because it will help your team. You want leaders who are better at asking before answering. I was at ATD 2026. I was giving my talk, and I had like this thing that I do, and I ask people like, what's the first thing you do? And most people go to solve. I had one leader out of almost 200 people in the room say, I would ask him a question, and I was like, you're ahead of the curve. Most people give answers before they ask questions. So you have to coach yourself in thinking differently. You have to coach your team to think differently. Make reasoning visible for everybody. Don't make it as you being the solution vending machine. And then the third thing I want you to do is transfer ownership. So you don't have to own every single thing. As a manager, as a person who is going from being an executor to a developer, and I struggle with this sometimes too, is being able to develop the outcome. Like, this is what I want. This is my vision. This is the goal. This is where we're headed. Allow someone else to carry you across the finish line. It is not going to look exactly the way that you wanted it to look. Believe me, because sometimes people are better thinkers than you are. Sometimes the idea is going to look sharper than what you thought. Sometimes it's going to take on a life of its own that you would have never imagined by yourself. And I am speaking from experience. Hannah, if you're watching this, I asked someone I'm working with, her name is Hannah, to create something for me, something visual. And I had like an idea. I told her kind of what I wanted, the general goal of what the project was supposed to entail. And I could have gone and done it myself. I love the direction that Hannah started taking it. And so now we'll work on some tweaks to like get it more refined as we go along. But I would not have had it come out the way that it did had I not allowed her to own the process. So again, one is pausing on the rescue. You don't have to save every single person with a solution every single time. Don't take the work back. Number two, coach the thinking, starting with yourself. Start asking better questions before you start trying to give answers. And a better question isn't a question like, we should do this, right? That's not a question. Don't you think we should do? That's not a question. A question could sound like, potentially, I'm going to give you some freebies. What have you already thought about? How would you solve this? What do you think we should do? Those are questions. If I were to give you full access to be able to think about this project from start to finish, what would your solution look like? That's a question. All right, I gave you like a bunch. The third one is transfer ownership. Create the vision, create the opportunity, create the framework, but then transfer the ownership of what the outcome is going to look like. Who's going to get us across the finish line? Again, these are things that you're not normally going to find in most leadership development programs. You're just not. Most people are talking about some other stuff. I've been in them. I've been on the backside helping develop some of these things. And I've even been in companies who are like, no, we're not going to do it that way because so and so said. And I'm like, okay, fine. All right. And then they'd be like, well, you should fight hard. I was like, for what? I know this stuff works because I've used it. I know this stuff works because I've researched it. I know this stuff works because I've done it. Others have done it and handed me things, and I know it's worked. So, you know, use it. Um, I kind of just want to talk maybe about one more thing before I kind of let you all go for today. Take a quick sip. And that is every rescue that you do as a new leader, or even as an old leader. Sometimes I be talking like I'm only talking to new leaders, but sometimes some of the worst offenders are people that think they know how to do this stuff already. I've worked with some of you. There's a phrase that's in the word respectfully. Respectfully, some of the people who think they know how to do this work aren't as good as they think. And I mean that respectfully. I don't mean that as a diss. I don't mean that as a knock. Sometimes we trust ourselves a little too much and it causes issues. And if I'm being just honest with you, that's something that has to change. If you want to grow, right? You could be the person that I'm actually in the future trying to bring a program to. And I don't mean any disrespect. It's just if it's been working so long for you, you might get into the notion of like, oh, this is how it should be. And sometimes that's the issue. So that was free. All this has been free, but that was free. So let me just tell you what rescuing people teaches the team, right? So when you show up and you give the answer every single time, what does that do for the people around you, the people that you're supposed to develop? In team dynamics, rescuing refers to stepping in to solve problems for others, which can foster dependency. So a problem will arise. Me as the manager, I take over. The team stops stretching the moment you start taking over, and more problems return. It's not just the same problem. Now it's more problems. And you being the hero, pum, 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 you get tired. And the bench, the folks that you really need supporting you, do not get deeper. So when you start seeking self worth by constantly trying to solve, you're really taking away the worth of others. And that's not the point of a leader. And I'm trying to think. I think, I run into this a lot. And I just want to leave you with maybe a statter that'll maybe help you think about it a little differently, right? Sometimes it's nice to hear like things that come from other folks. There was a Gallup. No, no, actually, this was from. I took a note on this real quick. Let me see if I can pull up my notes. I took a note on this. Linda Hill said that managers account for 70% of the variance in team engagement. Managers account for 70% of the variance in team engagement. It's a Gallup engagement statistic, but she's at the Harvard Business School, so she might know what she's talking about. I think she might. Um, so when you think of team level employee engagement, it's attributed to the manager. So these kind of hero tactics, you coming in and saving people, 70% of what you do is going to impact your team. So a fumble transition, if you're the one fumbling, not really knowing what to do, or if those that are being promoted within your organization are the ones that don't know what to do and they do this, they're going to change the experience of everyone around them for good or for bad. And this rescuing stuff is one of those ways that that happens. So I think this is good for today. Like I said, I'm going to be coming on probably, like I said, every week, every Wednesday, unless there's something that's going on. Like this morning, I had a flat tire from last night, had to take care of at Costco. So I'm glad that I was able to get here and get on. I can do these remote. So maybe even if that happens, maybe you'll just be walking with Kale that day instead of kick it with Kale. And we'll navigate through some things for leadership because not everything that happens can be planned for. We can be as prepared as possible, but we can't always plan for everything. So if you walk away with nothing else today, I just wanted to highlight that today was all about first time managers, early leaders, those that we promote. We have to begin to help them transition their mindset, their identity from being the doer, the executor, the high performing individual to the developer, the person who's asking better questions, who's not taking on all the work, who's not hoarding all the information, who's really there to lead people. And I want you to remember that it's relationships as much as it is authority. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Please, if you have any comments or there's things that you want to hear about in the future, let me know in the comments. You can send me a message, email. I will be hosting a webinar coming up on August the 4th. If you want more information about that, that is going to be more for individuals, but it will be a fantastic opportunity, especially for those that are trying to like figure out what am I doing in leadership. So it's called "Can I Actually Lead?" And truth be told, yes, you can. You just need to get the reps. A lot of it is getting the reps. The more reps, the better. So again, my name is Kelvin Jenkins, CEO and founder of AP Business Collective. It's great to have you here. I'm glad that you stuck this out with me, and I hope that you found some value. Go out there and lead like it matters. Talk to you later.